Hello, Spooklings.
I'm Jason,
And I'm Kathy.
and we're the hosts of the weekly podcast, All Hallows Eve Podcast.
We are a husband and wife duo with a passion for anything spooky, macabre, and true crime, sprinkled with our own twist of comedy.
We explore topics such as the history of Halloween, the Butcher of Plainfield, Hocus Pocus 2, urban legends, superstitions, and more.
So come join us as we go down the rabbit hole that is All Hallows Eve Podcast.
Listen and follow us at allhallowsevepodcast.com or your favorite podcast provider.
Stay spooky, my friends.
Hey everybody, welcome to Films and Fermentation. Tonight is our 99th episode.
99
times.
99 beer. Take one now, pass it around.
Pass it around. 99 episodes tonight. So tonight is our 99th episode. We're Films and Fermentation, a movie and alcohol podcast. I'm Leo.
I'm Kevin.
I'm Mike.
We're three friends who like to talk shit about movies while getting shit-faced. This episode tonight, number 99, we are going to be spending some time with one of the most original filmmakers that Hollywood has to offer. We're going to be looking at the career of one Tim Burton. We decided to go with this tonight because it is the 35th anniversary of one of his biggest hits, that being Beetlejuice. Dare I say it a third time and see what happens?
Do it.
So, episode 99, The Kooky Career of Tim Burton. Don't forget to drop us an email, filmsandfermentation@gmail.com, or visit linktree.com/filmsandfermentation to find all of our social media podcast links. We are now using Buzzsprout as our hosting platform. Let me tell you a little bit about Buzzsprout. Podcasting isn't hard when you have the right partners. The team at Buzzsprout is passionate about helping you succeed. Join over 100,000 podcasters already using Buzzsprout to get their message out. We switched to Buzzsprout, and it's been a game changer for us. New analytics, much more downloads, just a whole bunch of options that we didn't have before. So if you want to upgrade, change to Buzzsprout. Follow the link that I will be posting on our show notes. Let Buzzsprout know that we sent you there.
Speaking of Buzzsprout, real quick, Did you get the email? We had 130 downloads last week.
Yeah, and we have 293 as of today. So yeah, we're getting there.
We're getting there.
Some of the other guys on Buzzsprout on our podcast group who have been using Buzzsprout over the last year or so already reached like a couple thousand downloads. So
nice.
I'm hoping it does the same for us.
Well, we're
as always, because we are a movie and alcohol podcast, what is the alcohol we are imbibing in tonight, gentlemen?
I'll go first. I am imbibing on, this is a brewery exclusive. It is the River Horse Kirsch Noir, which is a chocolate cherry imperial stout. Okay, it is River Horse Brewing, which is up in Ewing. My wife and I went up there a couple weeks ago. Nice little place. It's 10% alcohol by volume. It's got a color measure on here. 37 SRM. Anybody know what the hell that means?
I have no idea.
No idea. Okay. It says, historically, imperial stouts are a formidable style brewed to withstand long voyages. To honor the centuries-long tradition of this luxurious style, we've added an extra layer of complexity with cherries. Velvety on the palate, but strong enough to accentuate bold, roasted chocolate notes. This beauty reminds us of a slice of rich Black Forest Gâteau. There's no need to amp the booziness with traditional cherry brandy, but there is a requirement to savor every sip. So that's what I'm starting with.
So
The boozy again?
the SRM is a beer color chart.
Yes. So this is a 37 on the SRM.
So it says a standard reference. It's called the standard reference method, the most common value used in the U.S. to measure beer color. Developed by the American Society of Brewing Chemists in 1950 as a scientific standard for identifying beer color. And 37 looks like it's, because it's like a darker beer. That's one of the higher numbers. So it's like it looks like the higher you go, the darker the beer is.
Mm.
So I think if you're drinking like a 1, it means you're drinking like Budweiser because it changes
Piss
your
water.
white. Yeah. Makes your piss
There's
white.
some Clydesdale piss for you.
This is a nice dark color. Like a Coca-Cola.
Michael, what are you drinking this evening?
I am drinking a Jim Beam Kentucky Cooler Lemonade Sweet Tea. 5% alcohol by volume.
Sounds good.
One, I got another one later.
So I have a beer recommendation for you, Mike. Last night I stopped at this pub in Doylestown to pick up some pizza that Katie and I really like from there.
Okay.
And while I was waiting for the pizzas to cook, I had a beer, and it was an Omegang wit beer.
Okay, I think
it's simply just called Omegang
wit.
But it
I
was.
think I've seen it.
It's very good. It's because I know you like the wit beers. It was very clean, very like crisp, not like not bitter at all. Really, really good.
Nice.
And then I also had one of the Spaten double box the other night, which I hadn't had before, and I really enjoyed that. But for tonight, I decided I was going to try to do a mixed drink, and like one of the movie theme related mixed drinks. Like there's a drink called the Beetlejuice.
Mm-hmm.
There's a drink called the Corpse Bride. But I'm like, you know what? Fuck it. I don't feel like doing all that. Yeah, I don't feel like doing that at work. So I'm drinking beer because between my friend Kevin, my friend Mike, and myself, there's a lot of beer in my fridge right now, and I need to start like plowing through it a little bit. So I have a loose theme here because I'm drinking a Munchin on Pumpkin from Devil's Backbone, one of the ones that Mike gave me. And I say it's loose theme because I figured, hey, in Sleepy Hollow, the Headless Horseman does have a pumpkin for a head for a while.
It is true.
It's true.
I got a loose theme going.
Very loose.
Mm-hmm.
Hey,
Mike, any history for us this week, Mike?
This day in film history. In 1941, James Stewart is inducted into the Army, becoming the first major American movie star to wear a military uniform in World War II.
And then,
3 years later, in 1944, American movie star Jimmy Stewart flies his 12th combat mission, leading the 2nd Bomb Wing in an attack on Berlin. Get them Nazis.
So it's like, not only is he the first American major movie star, but he didn't like take it easy. He wasn't like sitting behind a desk or anything. Some bitch was getting his hands dirty.
He was getting some killing some Nazi ass.
I was like
and then in 1950, Jimmy Stewart creates the Air Force, and starts the Air Force, and that's how the Air Force came around. We found that out earlier. That's
the Army Air whatever you said it was called, like Air Corps was not big enough for Jimmy Stewart, so they had to create a whole branch for him.
I gotta spread my wings. I gotta fly. Man, gotta fly.
I'm gonna take out as many of these Nazi fuckers as I can.
every time a Nazi dies, I get more wings. I got so many wings. Zuzu's petals. This is for you, Zuzu.
That's probably true too. He probably got some more wings on his uniform for every Nazi.
So the Department of the Air Force came out in September 18th, 1947.
Oh wow!
So you
It was
can
only 3 years after that
Yeah.
mission to Berlin. That's pretty cool. I added the third fact here, and it's just that this year is the 35th anniversary of Beetlejuice. Classic comedy, classic Tim Burton film. One of the reasons why we decided to do a Tim Burton episode for this, our 99th show.
And the sequel's in the works.
And the sequel
It is.
There is a sequel in the works. And I heard a rumor, my wife actually told me this, that the sequel is going to involve Lydia's daughter. Lydia, of course, is the Winona Ryder character, and that it possibly might be played by Jenna Ortega, who plays Wednesday. And I'm like, well, that's kind of like on the nose casting, and I would feel like she's being like typecast at that point if you're going to put her in another Tim Burton film.
Now, see, what I heard is that the sequel is going to have Lydia's child, but it's actually going to be her son, who hides out in his fort in the woods and ends up disappearing into this whole upside down world, right? And then his friends gather to try to help. In the
Is his name Will Byers?
That's right. That's exactly it.
That would be funny. If, like, the Beetlejuice sequel was just a loose adaptation of Stranger Things.
It's a good thing Kevin brings the pretty, because that's about all he's bringing.
I bring the funny too. God damn it!
I enjoyed that joke. I got the reference.
I got it too. It just was long.
Speaking of excellent TV shows, everybody caught up on The Mandalorian.
Oh yes,
really good this season.
And what I heard is that it's not getting the ratings. Like, it's slow on the ratings this year. Yeah,
people aren't as hyped about it for some reason. I'm very hyped.
I love it.
I'm enjoying it. I like.
I've enjoyed every episode so far. Yeah.
hey, we got some Grogu backstory this week.
I know we got a lot of backstory in the last 2 episodes.
And can we believe who the Jedi Savior was for Grogu? It's a me, Mario. It's a me, Jar Jar. I'm sorry, spoiler, guys.
Yeah, it's really the actor who plays the Jedi is the actor who did Jar Jar Binks.
Ahmed Best.
I thought it was a good way of giving him a little, like, redemption.
Yeah. Actually, I think there was a children's Jedi show. I hadn't caught any of it, but there's this kid's Jedi show, and he is a Jedi. He plays the Jedi Master on that. Who's in the Mandalorian?
Okay.
So
yeah, because I was unfamiliar with the character.
See, fun fact, Mike. Funny fun facts and the pretty.
I was I wasn't familiar with the character, but I was like, oh well, my best. That was kind of cool to see. Synopsis, according to, I'm sorry, Mike, do you have a must-try beer or craft destination for this evening?
I have a craft destination. This is Parish Brewing Company, 229 Jared Drive in Bouchard, Louisiana. Andrew Godley started Parish Brewing Company out of his garage, and since then, the brewery's beers have become so popular that he has a difficult time keeping up with the demand. Their flagship beer is Cane Break, a refreshing wheat ale brewed with cane syrup from a nearby company called Steen's Cane Syrup. In 2013, Parish released a double IPA called Ghost in the Machine that was met with similar high acclaim. Parish does a monthly brewery only special releases on top of his 6 year-round beers. So stop by the brewery for a tour, grab a flight from the tap room, and then take some delicious beer to go.
So, shout out to our friend Donald from You, Me, and a Movie.
And pizza.
Yep.
Who is from Louisiana. And I feel like that might have been one of the things he talked about on the show when he was a guest.
I think it was.
It sounds familiar. I'll have to contact him or like re-listen to that episode or something and see if that was one of the beers he talked about. Because I remember him telling us if we ever get down to Louisiana, there's a couple places we should try out.
Yep.
We're gonna add that. We're gonna add that to the Films and Fermentation live tour because I'd love to go to New Orleans one day. So
If we were to do that, if we were to go, on
We
a,
have
on
to
a
hit all
tour,
50 states. It's
On a
a
live
50
tour?
state
well,
tour.
I think we'd have to definitely check out like movie sets and things like visit the areas of the movies from the cities that we're going to.
Oh, I would do that definitely. Now, here's the thing, though: we have to actually start making money off the podcast first.
I will start selling my underwear.
Yeah, okay. So as long as if we start getting some more downloads, we can start getting some advertisements, and then maybe, just maybe,
Maybe in about 12 years.
yeah, if we're still doing this podcast, when we reach our 200th episode, maybe, just maybe, we can do the country tour.
We can do one city in October.
So our synopsis, according to Glip, for last week's episode, last week was our tribute to the Quiet Man, loudly remembering the Quiet Man for St. Patty's Day. Our synopsis, according to Glip, of course, brought to you by Newsly. Newsly is an all-in-one audio super app for iOS or Android. If you'd like to have the news read to you in a natural human voice, go to newsly.me today. If you use the promo code ANDFERMENT, you can get the first month premium subscription for free. Stop scrolling, start listening. Newsly.me. So, according to Glip last week, the meeting, we had a meeting last week. We didn't have a show or a podcast. We had a meeting. The meeting focused on Jeopardy questions tonight, Voice of the Cherry, Raiders of the Lost Ark, setting of the film, dowry elements of the movie, and the reign of Henry.
Only one of those had anything to do with the movie we talked about.
Only one of those. There's like two of those that I remember talking about. There was the dowry and the Jeopardy question that Kevin brought.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I don't remember. What the fuck is the reign of Henry?
Yeah, that's what I want to know. What the fuck is that?
The reign of Henry. Henry
the
the
reign
Eighth?
of Henry.
You talked about Henry the Eighth last week?
I don't remember talking about anything with Henry.
I don't remember a Henry.
The setting of the film, I think, is when we were talking about the cinematography.
Probably.
I don't know where Raiders of the Lost. Oh, Raiders of the Lost Ark was the Jeopardy question.
Yeah.
And the voice of the cherry.
The voice of the cherry.
That can go so many different ways. Oh God!
I have no idea half of the shit that Glip pulled out of the show last week. I was both perplexed and disappointed by this summary. Notes. I have some notes from the last show, which I haven't done in a while. Last week we were talking about recasting The Quiet Man, and even though we feel that a reboot of the movie is sacrilege, I couldn't help thinking about it a little bit, and I came up with my own sort of recasting of the movie if there was a modern day one. And I came up with this: Sean Thornton, the John Wayne part. I put in Chris Pine, best known for playing Captain Kirk in the Star Trek reboots.
Yep.
I thought he would be a really good John Wayne substitute. For Mary Kate, I went with Saoirse Ronan because she is an Irish actress, and I would put Saoirse Ronan in every fucking movie I ever made. For Red Will Donaher, I went with Colin Farrell, sort of like your statesman Irish actor. For Meccaleen, I went with an Irish comedian
Adam Sandler.
who's done a few shows, done a few TV shows and a couple movies. Probably not as well known a name in America, but he's really funny. His name's Chris O'Dowd. He was in a BBC sitcom called The IT Crowd. He was in the movie This Is 40, Judd Apatow film. He was in Bridesmaids. Yeah. So he's a really funny Irish comedian. I thought he would be a good Michelin.
He was in Thor, the dark thing, Thor in the Dark.
Dark World. The Dark World.
Dark World. He was a very brief role. I think he's a little too tall for Michelin.
Yeah, he's taller, but he plays a really good drunk character if you ever watch the IT Crowd. So
yeah.
And then for the priest, for the Catholic priest, I have Kenneth Branagh, and for the Protestant on Reverend Playfair, Ewan McGregor. I tried to go with actors who were either Irish or could play Irish really well.
I didn't hear Liam Neeson in there anywhere.
I tried to squeeze him in there somewhere, and I'm like, I don't know. Liam Neeson, I think, is a little too intense for the quiet man.
No.
I will find you, and
I could actually see him playing the Catholic priest, fishing, then starts yelling at her about, in the back.
I thought about him for Redwell Donaher, but I was like, no, there's no way he wouldn't kill Sean Thornton. So we will be taking a short break to bring you some promos from our friends at Today We Laughed and Learned and the Fandalorians. When we come back from that short break, we'll be going into our main segment, The Kooky Career of Tim Burton.
Hi, I'm Chris.
And I'm Deb.
And we host a pretty fun podcast called Today We Laughed and Learned. You know, this is where we discuss all the things we should have learned, but, well, never did. And we have quite a few laughs along the way.
Today we laughed and learned with Chris and Deb.
We're curious about everything. Experts on nothing.
Come find us wherever you get your podcasts.
Hello, everybody. Let me ask you a question. When you were a kid, did you ever wonder what teachers talked about in the teacher's lounge?
You probably didn't miss much. It's usually boring stuff like grading papers, lesson planning, and then figuring out the new train schedule.
Train schedule?
Well, I teach in the city.
But sometimes, at one of the not-so-cool tables in the back of the teacher's lounge, you might find us, the Fandalorians, teachers by day, nerds by night.
My name is Mr. Richardson, and by day, Mr. McDonald, Mr. G, and I teach and inspire America's youth.
But by night, we debate, discuss, and argue about all things in the pop culture universe on our podcast.
We discuss all the biggest pop culture topics in the world, like Ozark, Stranger Things, The Marvelous Miss Maisel, Marvel, Star Wars, Top Gun Maverick, The Old Man, Bridgerton, you name it, we'll probably discuss it.
You guys watch Bridgerton?
Yo, season 1 of Bridgerton was awesome. You don't know what you're missing. Since we are teachers, you will always get a ton of background information about our topics and original teacher-themed segments, like our pop culture morning announcements, building meetings, and post-observation reviews of shows and movies. Oh, and arguing. You'll get lots of disagreements and arguing, like way more than I'm comfortable with.
You can find us wherever you listen to your podcasts. Just search for The Fandalorians, Teachers by Day, Nerds by Night.
Then join us every Monday as we look into the current state of fandom and pop culture.
Hey, look, the bell's about to ring. We need to head to the buses. Hopefully we'll see you guys soon.
Well, I mean, they're not going to see us because this is a podcast.
I know.
But they can't even see us when you think about it, so they won't see us either.
Oh my God, you know what I meant. It wasn't literal. Just ring the bell. Ring the bell.
The Fandalorians, Teachers by Day, Nerds by Night. I hope you listen and subscribe to us soon.
I hate you guys.
We are.
Sorry.
You're going to give us a little musical montage for our main segment?
That's right. That was 89.
And it's like funny. It's like I was going through this last night, and I was putting together the outline, and I was like, I feel like we did a lot of this already, but we also just did an episode on Danny Elfman.
And it's,
there's a lot of like crossover.
And the Beetlejuice theme is so highly used at Halloween time because it's such a Halloween-y kind of song.
And it's very, very similar. At least like the few opening bars of it are very similar to Men in Black.
Yeah.
And you listen to the Men in Black theme, it's very, very similar. And that is not a Tim Burton film. Timothy Walter Burton was born in Burbank, California. Spent most of his childhood as a recluse. That's shocking.
I know.
Wow.
Drawing cartoons and watching old movies. He was especially fond of films starring Vincent Price. Which would come full circle when he brings Vincent Price into Edward Scissorhands. When he was in the 9th grade, his artistic talent was recognized by a local garbage company when he won a prize for an anti-litter poster that he designed. The company placed the poster on all of the garbage trucks for a year. After graduating from high school, he attended the California Institute of Arts, and like so many others who graduated from that school, Burton's first job was as an animator for Disney.
I like that he went to the CIA.
So his early career had he worked on the Fox and the Hound, Black Cauldron. A lot of that was like background work as an animator and such. And it was weird because I was looking at like some of his early career when I was doing the filmography section of this, and a lot of short films early in his career as a director and a writer. A lot of short films, and it wasn't really until somebody decided, hey, let's give this weird guy the directing credit for Pee-wee's Big Adventure. That he then kind of took off as a director. So let's bring up his filmography. Should mention he was briefly married to Helena Bonham Carter, his often muse in his films, before he replaced her with Johnny Depp as his muse.
Then he uses both of them as his muse.
Well, they were both, I think, yeah.
So his career started in 1971 as a short film director. He released a number of short films between 71 and 79, it looks like. Houdini, The Untold Story, The Island of Dr. Agor, Prehistoric Cavemen, Tim's Dreams, 1997, King and Octopus Animation, The Doctor of Doom, Stalk of the Celery Monster. I think a lot of these were done when he was like in college. These sound like college films. Then he directed a short film in 82, another one called Vincent in 1982. And then he had a TV movie that he directed in 1983, Hansel and Gretel. I feel like I might have seen this. I don't know. Vincent Price hosted it.
Disney Channel. This is a Tim Burton Disney Channel Halloween film short.
Yes, it is.
It only aired
Hansel,
once.
a live-action and stop-motion animated film featuring East Asian actors and striking set designs reminiscent of his later work in Beetlejuice and Edward Scissorhands. While the film was created during his employment at Disney Feature Films, his stop-motion work began with the short film Vincent and continues this day with some of his other films. He also did some 2D animation work with Disney with The Fox and the Hound and The Black Cauldron. The Black Cauldron makes sense. The Fox and the Hound doesn't.
Yeah, I don't get The Fox and the Hound.
Yeah. In 1984, he directed a short film called Frankenweenie, which he would then recreate later on into a full-length film. First major film as a director, 1985, Pee-wee's Big Adventure. Let's take a moment to talk about this one, friends.
Look, who doesn't understand the concept of a boy's love of his bike and his need to travel halfway across the country to make sure he gets it back?
I recently...
Except for when the boy's a grown-ass man.
I recently, in my STEM class recently, I had my students trying to build a Rube Goldberg machine. And so I was showing them examples of it from some movies like The Goonies and such. And so I showed them the machine he uses at the beginning of Pee-wee's Big Adventure to make his breakfast. And it's like, it makes this giant breakfast with eggs and bacon and pancakes. And then he has the Mr. T cereal poured on top. And then he sits down with a giant fork and he eats one bite of it and walks away. And they were so angry that he made this giant breakfast and didn't eat it. It was hilarious. And I remember watching that movie for the first time when it was 1985. I would have been 8 years old. And I remember watching it going, God damn it, he didn't eat the whole breakfast, man. Never waste a breakfast like that. I hated this movie when I was a kid because my sisters watched this on like a loop, and it tortured me.
Well, Marge tortured you.
Yeah. Well, then if you talk about the jump scare episode, but then in later years when I rewatched it again as an adult, I found a lot of humor in it that I was like, wow, that's definitely not kids' humor.
No.
There was definitely some adult jokes in there. I actually found it kind of funny later on when I rewatched it. He would then go on to direct one episode of Alfred Hitchcock Presents in 1986.
Yeah, but hold on, Lee. Just for a second. Just notice, they give his big break in 85, and they don't give him another break for 3 more years.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, he made a lot of money with the Pee-wee's Big Adventure. That movie did surprisingly well at the box office. And then he kind of like floundered a little bit. Did a couple TV directing things with Fairy Tale Theater and Alfred Hitchcock Presents. And then in 1988, he wrote the screenplay for Beetlejuice, and they brought him on as the director for it. It was kind of like it was almost like a trust fall project. Like, let's see what he can do with this.
Mm-hmm.
And the movie made a fucking shit ton of money.
I would argue this is the movie that made him.
It is the movie that made him. It's definitely the movie. Like Pee-wee's Big Adventure was the movie that kind of introduced him to Hollywood as somebody who could be a director and not just an animator. But Beetlejuice is the movie that made him as everything. Like, he's a writer on the film, a director on the film. He had a lot to do with the animation behind the scenes. And it is a great film. It's one of my favorite comedies. One of my favorite Tim Burton films. Spirit of the deceased couple are harassed by an unbearable family that has moved into their home, and they hire a malicious spirit to drive them out. It's a classic performance from Michael Keaton. The stars of the movie are actually Alec Baldwin and Gina Davis. Even though Beetlejuice gets all the credit, Beetlejuice only appears in the movie for, I forgot what it was, but I think it's like less than 20 minutes total screen time.
Right.
In a 2-hour film. But you forget about that when he gets on the screen, because he just eats up the scenery so much that, you forget that he's hardly in the film at all.
Right.
They also spell the name of the movie phonetically because it was supposed to be spelled like the spelling of the constellation, but the studio was afraid people wouldn't know how to pronounce it.
It's like the Oneaters.
Yeah, like the Oneaters, yeah. The Oneaters.
The Oneaters.
Whoa, wonders. So it's spelled phonetically so people would understand it. I mean, it's a great cast. Catherine O'Hara, Gina Davis, Alec Baldwin, Michael Keaton, Winona Ryder in one of her like early roles. A man I hate mentioning often, Jeffrey Jones, because of things that he did in his personal life. But he's great in it. I mean, it's such a fun movie. It's so fucking weird, but in a good way. And it's got some great quotes in it too. One of my favorite is when he's shrunk down and he's standing on top of the model and he's screaming at them because they disappeared, they wouldn't hire him or whatever, and he kicks the tree and it falls over and he's like, "Nice fucking model."
Honk, honk.
Or when the strip club shows up.
Did you put that in there? No. Look, we shop at the same store.
I can't remember the line. It's Jeffrey Jones he brings was it Dick Cavett and what's his name up to try to sell him on the real estate in this little town, and he's like, "We hired so and so. He's the guy that created the talking Marcel Marceau statue." It's such like a throwaway line, but yeah, I love this movie. It's one of my favorites. Beetlejuice.
Home.
Do you ever notice
Sandworms, am I right?
In the one scene where they're meeting with their afterlife consultant, there's like a group of ghosts in the window behind them, like kind of sitting there watching. They are set up to look like an audience in a movie theater. So like while you're watching the movie, the dead people are watching like a movie in which you are in the film as well. So it's like a mirror movie watching experience. Quirky little things like that made him such a unique director. It was because of the success of Beetlejuice that he went on a string of friggin' hits, including a movie that was like gifted to him. Like it's still bizarre that he was given this movie to direct, but when you watch it, you can see it's a Tim Burton film. But it was like, all right, he made a lot of money with Beetlejuice. Who are we going to get to direct this blockbuster comic book film that we invested all this money in? Let's give it to the weird guy who used to animate for Disney.
Well, the Batman in that movie already worked with him once, so
yeah. So you have Michael Keaton as the Batman, which was already kind of a controversial.
Because he was only doing comedies at that point. He hadn't done
comedies,
serious roles.
Occasional like drama, but mostly comedies.
Mostly comedies.
And comedies where he was sort of like an over the top personality as well.
Yeah.
And like when you play Batman,
Mom.
you have to kind of be a little.
Batman
little more
is Mr. Mom. Mr. Mom is
Yeah.
Batman. Mr. Mom.
I mean, the over-the-top performance, of course, in this film, Jack Nicholson.
You ever dance with the devil in the pale moonlight?
What is that of all my prey? It's like a sound.
How do I get those wonderful toys? I love the scene at the end where Batman comes flying in the plane thing, the bat plane, and he's like, "Why didn't somebody tell me he had one of those things?"
Things. They stole my balloons.
Where's
Bob
the Batman?
Gunn.
He's at home watching his tights. No, I think the best line in that film is when the Joker is dancing with Vicky Vale on the top of the cathedral, and he's like, "It's like Beauty and the Beast, except if anybody else calls you Beast, I'll rip their heart out."
He did. I mean, Tim Burton did an amazing job of bringing the black back to the bat. You know, making it dark, washing away the camp of West.
He took the idea of Gotham and really went with the Gotham is Gothic portion of it.
Yeah.
Like it is a dark, damp, depressing city that only Tim Burton could create. And he brought out a quirkiness to it that was it does have like a quirkiness kind of like the Adam West Batman, but there's enough dark and brooding and other stuff going on that it doesn't seem like a campy version of the Batman TV show.
Right.
Then he has 1990 Edward Scissorhands.
This was his pet project, wasn't it? This was something he wanted based on his drawings.
This is kind of like the point now, like with the success of Beetlejuice and Batman, that he's kind of given carte blanche now. Like, what do you want to make next? I want to make this movie about a man with scissors for hands. And it's like,
what the fuck?
All right, yeah, go for it.
They went. What?
Yeah, here's $30 million. Go for it. And
it got nominated for best makeup.
Yeah, it did. It was the first collaboration between he and Johnny Depp. And so you have this weird combo now because you have Tim Burton directing. He wrote the script. He brought in an actor who at the time was best known for 21 Jump Street into this role that requires him to be almost silent throughout the entire film and awkward and quirky, but also sort of attractive in a very goth way.
He brought emo to emo.
He brought emo to emo. I mean,
who else to be attracted to that than Winona Ryder?
And Winona Ryder. And honestly, and maybe I'm weird, but this is the movie that I found Winona Ryder the most attractive in. I don't know if it has to do with the blonde hair or something, but it's also the final film appearance of Vincent Price. He died very shortly after the movie. I don't even think he lived to see the movie premiere. He died like shortly after the filming of it, and he was one of Tim Burton's heroes in Hollywood, and he finally got a chance to work with him, and thankfully it was while he was still able to. I love Diana Wiest in the movie as Winona Ryder's mom.
Yeah,
she's hilarious.
And Alan, is it Alan Alda? Not Alan Alda. Why am I thinking Alan?
Who, the dad?
Yeah,
it's Alan Arkin.
Alan Arkin.
Yeah, Alan Arkin is the dad. Yeah, you have Anthony Michael Hall from Breakfast Club as the bully who's dating Winona Ryder. It's a good movie, man. I remember when I watched it for the first time thinking, I don't know how I feel about this. And then after like a rewatch, I was like, yeah, this is actually a very thoughtful film.
That actually, I mean, and I know we're not focusing back on Danny Elfman, but that also has one of those iconic scores that you hear. It's more of a Christmassy, carol. Anyway.
I think his first collaboration with Danny Elfman was on the Pee-wee's Big Adventure. And then he brought him back for Beetlejuice, and then he kind of became his go-to because he does Batman with him, Edward Scissorhands, Batman Returns in 1992, And then a slew of these other movies that he's done along the way.
Right.
In 1992, he does Batman Returns, another major hit.
Mm-hmm.
Able to bring back Michael Keaton.
Yep. Go ahead.
Go ahead. What are you going to say?
No, I was just going to say that. I mean, he brings back Michael Keaton. He brings in Danny DeVito and Michelle Pfeiffer, and I'd say this is just as good as '89 Batman, but then he gets a lot of slack. And I just saw a short video clip of this as well because of how dark it is. Because Michelle Pfeiffer's Catwoman is too attractive, and the Tipper Gores of everybody. Oh, what about the children?
You don't want Catwoman to be too attractive. Don't hire Michelle Pfeiffer.
Yeah.
Or Anne Hathaway.
Yeah. But it's Batman. Yes, it's Batman. But let's face the fact, it's not. You're not. I mean, yes, kids may view this, but older people are going to view this too, and that's who really enjoyed it.
Can we take an assessment of this? Too attractive. The original Catwoman was Julie Newmar.
Mm-hmm.
Hot as balls. Eartha Kitt, pretty attractive.
Very attractive.
Lee Merriweather, very attractive.
Mm-hmm.
Michelle Pfeiffer.
Yeah.
Who else do we have? Halle Berry was in a very awful adaptation of Catwoman, but still, it's Halle Berry.
Attractive.
Anne Hathaway looked
extremely
amazing.
Attractive. Yes.
Especially when she was on the bike.
And Zoe Kravitz, the latest Catwoman, very attractive.
All remarkable.
It's kind of a trend.
It goes with the character.
And it goes with the character. Batman Returns. I like Batman Returns, and it's funny. The character that Christopher Walken plays in it was not supposed to be in the film. It was supposed to be Two-Face. Harvey Dent was originally played by Billy D. Williams.
Yeah.
And there was kickback from the studio or something. Like they didn't want to bring him back or something. I don't remember the whole story of it, but they ended up writing the character out and creating the character that Walken plays in the film.
Mm-hmm.
That scene at the end where he gets electrocuted and killed was originally supposed to be the scene where Two-Face is created.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
How about that?
Ed Wood, 1994, the only film in his career that he received an Oscar nomination for. Actually, he didn't. I'm looking at it now. Academy Awards. It won Best Supporting Actor for Martin Landau and Best Makeup. But that was the only nominations that it got.
Yeah, so he still hasn't got nominated.
He still has not got nominated himself, which is a travesty. He should have been nominated at least for Ed Wood.
Or for Big Fish.
Big Fish. Ed Wood is I love Ed Wood. It's a great movie.
Mm-hmm.
Another quirky Johnny Depp performance. Martin Landau is amazing in it as Bela Lugosi. He brings back Jeffrey Jones for this one. You got Bill Murray in it in a sort of a side character role. Vincent D'Onofrio plays Orson Welles in a cameo scene, and it's amazing. And just a lot of like character actors that you see around Hollywood playing all these different roles in the film. Story about arguably the worst director in the history of Hollywood. Directed by one of the quirkiest directors in the history of Hollywood. And so what you end up with is a very quirky biography of a man who was already very eccentric. If you've never seen Ed Wood, you should see Ed Wood. He then directs a video called A Visit with Vincent. I don't know what this is. It looks like a short film.
About the time he spent with Vincent Price.
About the time he spends with Vincent Price, yeah.
Yep.
I'll have to find that. That looks like it'd probably be really interesting.
Mm.
I would love to find that. I wonder if that's on like YouTube or something. It says it's a short documentary.
An hour long.
Okay. I'll have to
they
see
usually tell you on here where you can find it.
A Visit with Vincent. 1996. He directs a film that I really like, but did not do that well.
No, considering the cast, I mean,
yeah,
and everybody.
Mars Attacks. It's his homage to like the 1950s like B movie alien invasion films. I think it was just a little too quirky for some people. So he directs
The
it.
aliens were a little too quirky in general.
I love the. You have Jack Nicholson, who plays, I think, 3 or 4 different roles in the film, including the president. Pierce Brosnan, Annette Bening, Sarah Jessica Parker, Glenn Close, Danny DeVito, Michael J. Fox, Martin Short, Rod Steiger, Tom Jones, Natalie Portman, Lucas Haas, Jim Brown, Cole Winfield, Pam Grier, and Jack Black. Like, come on, man.
And Lisa Marie.
Lisa Marie, and she was in Ed Wood as well.
She became
she's the Martian girl. Lisa
she
Marie
becomes
is the
a staple in his for a while they were together.
So she was the Martian, the girl that the Martians dress up and pretend to be the human woman. I think it's a great movie. It's very quirky, weird sense of humor, and I love that the aliens are defeated. So it's like kind of like a spoof of the fact that the aliens in War of the Worlds are defeated by germs,
Right.
Human bacteria. That the aliens in this film are defeated by Hank Williams. Just listening to Hank Williams makes their heads explode. Spoiler alert.
Spoiler.
Then he does Sleepy Hollow in 1999. A hot take. I'm not a big fan of this one.
Really? I like it. It's a Halloween movie for me. I enjoy it.
Well, I didn't hate it.
I mean, he made a very good. He took a short story and made it into a interesting, horror mystery.
I think my biggest complaint with a lot of movies is that they're too long sometimes, and I feel like this was a little too long considering you're basing it on a short story.
Right.
I thought Johnny Depp was great in it as usual. I thought Christina Ricci was great in it. There's a lot of story behind the scenes about how uncomfortable they were playing like love interests because he was like 20 years older than her. Chris Walken is Chris Walken. I'm never gonna fucking complain about Chris Walken. Casting him as the Headless Horseman and not having him talk at all.
Right, and
actually kind of genius.
Talking about limited screen time, he doesn't have much. It's flashbacks, and the end of the movie is essentially what you see of him. Ray Parks did all of the horseman work without the head.
I would say I do like that portion of it, like when the horseman shows up and is like decapitating people, like that. Most of that's done pretty well. Very creepy and atmospheric. A lot more creepy and atmospheric than House of a Thousand Corpses. I'm going to stop here to mention that we are going to be recording a special guest spot on the All Hallows Eve podcast this Saturday coming up. On Monday, we're going to have 2 episodes featuring your favorite films and fermentation people. Our 99th episode that we're recording now about Tim Burton, but we were also going to have our special guest spot episode on All Hallows Eve dropping on Monday as well, where we are going to be reviewing the Rob Zombie directorial debut, House of a Thousand Corpses. Spoiler alert, I hate this fucking movie. And you will hear all about it on the All Hallows Eve podcast. Back to Tim Burton.
Fun fact about Sleepy Hollow. There are 3 Sith actors in this.
So you got Ray Park, who was Darth Maul.
Park, who was Darth Maul.
Christopher
Lee, who was Dooku.
Right.
And 3 Sith are in it. I'm gonna say, without looking at the cast, Ian McDermott, who played Palpatine, is he in it?
Oh no, I'm sorry. It's Jeffrey Jones. Jeffrey Jones was the 3rd Sith. I'm just messing with it. No, it's Ian McDermott.
I was going to say, Jeffrey Jones is not a Sith Lord. He
was just commenting on how evil he was.
He was arrested for child pornography. That's worse. I'd rather be a Sith Lord. But yeah, Ian McDermott, who played Palpatine.
Yes.
Palpatine.
That leads to a 2-year break when he comes back in 2001 with the much anticipated reboot of the classic sci-fi film Planet of the Apes. God, did this movie blow.
Hey, Abe, what you doing? How's your mother?
How's your mother? It's a planet full of apes.
It's
How
a
did this
planet
happen?
full of apes.
Why are
They're
you
throwing
so
the
angry,
poo.
Ape?
They're throwing the poo. Why are you throwing your
Look at
poo
these
at me, Ape?
They're so angry. Why are you so angry, apes? In 2029, an Air Force astronaut crash lands on a mysterious planet where evolved talking apes dominate a race of primitive humans. Gentlemen, the floor is yours.
Let me just say, Mark Wahlberg at his best. Actually, no, I will. I'm going to get. I gotta find some small degree of like good in this, and the only thing I'm going to say, I'm going to go back to certain actors. So David Warner, being awesome. Michael Clark Duncan being awesome.
That's the one. Yeah, Michael Clark Duncan was awesome.
Tim
That's
Roth
about it.
as Spade, awesome. Actually,
Paul
all the
Giamatti.
actors. Paul Giamatti.
Paul Giamatti was awesome. I love the makeup and the costume he wears is perfect, and he so kills it. Yeah, I would say like all the actors that they got to play the apes were awesome. Good. I like the fact that they made them more ape-like. Like they walked like apes, and they would jump around from like tree to tree and all that stuff. Like they weren't as human as like the. But you gotta think, with the original film, there's like limitations to what they could have done. But like that portion of it, I really liked. Mark Wahlberg was definitely a weak link.
Yeah. The story was, just
Stella Warren as the female interest in the film, a weak link because she's a model, she's not an actress. I don't know why they try to do that stuff. Yeah, it was mostly like the actors playing humans who were the weak link in the film. I mean, the makeup in this movie is incredible. It I think it did it get an Oscar or at least got a nomination or something for the makeup in the film. Michael Clark Duncan looks phenomenal in the film.
Yeah,
and has the presence to kind of embody this silverback gorilla persona that he's playing. And Tim Roth looked like he was having a lot of fun.
Yeah, he came off super creepy.
Oh yeah, like he even managed to make like this mask that he was wearing have the facial expressions he needs. Like it was like the performances of the actors playing the apes. Yeah. I enjoyed. I liked Helena Bonham Carter too. In her character kind of being like a throwback to the female ape scientist from the original film. Like she was pretty good. Creepy scene with her kissing Mark Wahlberg though. They do that in the original film, but for some reason it was less creepy back then.
Apes don't have lips.
But can we talk about the real reason that this movie didn't work?
The ending?
The fucking twist ending with Shade as the Lincoln Memorial.
In Apes We Trust.
0 sense. Like there was 0 sense in that film. 2000 to 2001, he does 6 episodes of a TV miniseries called The World of Stainboy, which I remember talking about this in the Danny Elfman episode because I'd never heard of this before. Local superhero Stainboy hunts down oddball villains, harnessing bizarre powers. It's a little animated series that he did 6 episodes of.
Back to his roots.
Yeah.
Animation.
And it seems very strange. It's each episode was only 5 minutes long. It was definitely a very short animation.
It took him a year to do 6?
Yeah. Then animation takes a long time, especially hand-drawn animation like that is. 2003, he comes back with his next big feature. I love this movie.
Yeah.
I really, really love this movie. Did not do well at the box office. We're reaching a point now where Tim Burton becomes sort of hit or miss, and a lot of it has to do with how big a miss the Planet of the Apes was. So Big Fish comes out in 2003. Great movie, very fun. Nominated for 1 Oscar, Best Music by Danny Elfman. The story of a man who tells a lot of tall tales and the son who was frustrated in trying to determine the fact from the fiction in his, father's life story. I like movies like this though, where it's like connecting, where sons connect with fathers. I don't know what it is, but I get a kick out of these movies.
Yeah.
They got Ewan McGregor as Ed Bloom and Albert Finney as the older version of Ed Bloom. Billy Crudup as the son, Will, Jessica Lange as his wife, Alison Lohman as the young version of Jessica Lange's character. Helena Bonham Carter plays 2 roles in the film. Jenny and the witch that shows you how you're going to die. Final film appearance of Robert Guillaume playing the doctor. One of my favorite actresses, Marion Cotillard as Billy Crudup's wife, Josephine. Matthew McCrory as Carl the Giant. I would like to point out that Matthew McCrory, Carl the Giant, was also in House of a Thousand Corpses. He was tiny.
Oh, he was tiny?
The character Tiny is played by Matthew McCrory.
Oh, that was the name of the character. I thought it was before his growth spurt.
Yeah, the character's name was Tiny. Missy Pyle, Danny DeVito, Steve Buscemi, Deep Roy. Like it's another like stacked cast movie. It's got a great story, great visuals. I love the tall tales that he tells, and how they create the visuals for them. But then I love how like when you see the characters at the end, you come to find out that these were all real people. They were just versions of them that he created. Even though the versions were overblown and exaggerated, they were still real people. And I don't know, I can't say enough about this movie. I wish it had a bigger following and did better in the box office. And then we jump right back into the fucking realm of the weird. 2005, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory.
Well, book accurate.
Johnny Depp was very creepy in that movie.
It was closer to the book than Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, but it was a Tim Burton, it was a Tim Burton production, which means it's just going to be weird.
It was Johnny Depp doing some weird, like Michael Jackson version of Willy Wonka,
which made it more creepy.
Which made it creepy. At least like Gene Wilder's like creepy version was more like, oh, this man's psychotic and he's going to kill these children. Whereas the Willy Wonka that Johnny Depp brought us, I was afraid he was going to molest the kids at some point during the film. I'm trying to think of things I liked about this movie.
Deep Roy
was awesome. Deep Roy was awesome as the Oompa Loompas.
Yeah.
I did like that you get to see the kids at the end, like what they look like after they're pulled out of the traps that they fell into. Because the original film with Gene Wilder, I was always like frightened by it because you never find out what happens to the kids. And then in 2005, he goes back to his animated roots and gives us The Corpse Bride. Notice I did not include Tim Burton's Nightmare Before Christmas in this.
Because he didn't direct, he produced.
He did not direct it, he produced it. Right. But he gets all the credit for it, and people think that, he was the director and all that, but he really wasn't.
No, but he was the source, like it was his story. He had been working on that for a while, so he does deserve most of the credit.
So like if I do producer credits and I look it up, so it is. He was also producer on James and the Giant Peach.
Yeah, well, he was also producer on Batman Forever. We're not holding that against him.
So the director of Nightmare Before Christmas was Henry Selick, but Tim Burton wrote and produced the film. So like if you're wondering why I didn't bring it up in the meantime, it's because I was mainly focusing on his filmography as a director for the sake of time. So as a director in animated films, he brings us The Corpse Bride in 2005.
Yeah.
And then 9 in 2009. I think I'm looking at his producer credits again. Hold on.
And that was a producer, yep.
That was a producer credit.
That was an animated.
Redo my thing here.
16.
That being said, 9 was actually a very interesting story, too. I really enjoyed 9.
Yeah, it was a very weird movie.
Yeah.
Getting back to director credits, he directed Corpse Bride. Then he went back to short films for a little bit. with Cinema 16.
And music videos.
Films. He did a music video for The Killers.
Mm-hmm.
And then comes back in 2007. I would say came back pretty strong with Sweeney Todd.
Yeah.
It was a bigger hit than I think most people expected.
Yeah, it was a musical.
Play.
It was an Sondheim. Sondheim, am I saying that right?
Stephen Sondheim, yeah.
Stephen Sondheim musical that they, put into a movie. Really well
done. Didn't know Johnny Depp could sing.
Mm-hmm.
I enjoyed his performance. I enjoyed Helena Bonham Carter's performance in it.
Mm-hmm.
I liked Alan Rickman in it.
Alan Rickman was really good in it.
Alan Rickman was great in it. I mean, I always loved Alan Rickman anyway.
Sacha Baron Cohen.
Johnny Depp had an Oscar nom.
He got an
for
Oscar
that.
nomination for it.
Yeah.
It was. It's weird because it's like this. Is like I said before. This is the point in his career where like it's like hit, miss, hit, miss, hit, miss.
Mm-hmm.
And so like he has a hit with Sweeney Todd, and then in 2010, Alice in Wonderland comes out, and that was a big miss.
Was it?
I don't know. I don't know what to say about this movie.
I don't know. I think Alice in Wonderland had a bit of a hit. It was a soft hit, but it was a hit.
I mean, it did
through Disney, so Disney promoted the shit out of it.
Yeah, it kind of did well in the box office, but like was not very well received.
No, I just think they just went too weird on it.
Yeah, I did enjoy.
It is Alice in Wonderland. Yeah. I mean, the whole fucking story is an LSD trip anyway.
The big ass head
on Helena Bonham Carter. I did enjoy Crispin Glover as the Knave of Hearts.
Uh-huh.
And Matt Lucas as Tweedledee and Tweedledum.
Uh-huh.
And of course Alan Rickman.
Of course.
But the rest of the movie was it was so weird. I heard somebody talking about this on a podcast recently, and I can't remember what they said, but it made me laugh. They were like, "This is a movie about a young girl being forced into marriage to a man that she doesn't love, and then she unfortunately ends up in another movie where she's in Wonderland." Or as they call it in the movie, Underland. God, it was like another weird Depp performance where Depp's reached a point in his career, I think now, where he's either Jack Sparrow or some version of Willy Wonka. And the Mad Hatter was a weird version of Willy Wonka.
We're about to go into another movie by Tim Burton where he's neither of those two. He's just weird.
Dark Shadows.
I didn't hate Johnny Depp as the Mad Hatter.
You didn't hate him?
I didn't hate it.
I love him.
I thought he was all right as the Mad Hatter. He was quite mad.
2012, he comes out with Dark Shadows.
Oh.
Now, this movie is a loose adaptation of a TV series that was very popular in the 60s and 70s. I know this because it was my dad's favorite TV show. He used to run home from school to watch it.
Oh, yeah?
It was like a dark soap opera about a vampire named Barbara Collins. And it was a horror. It wasn't a comedy like this is supposedly supposed to be. This is a dark fantasy comedy. It was rebooted in the 90s as a TV show as well. And then this is a third reboot, basically, but made to be sort of like this quirky comedy that just didn't work for me.
Can I say one more time on this movie? 2012,
he comes back with Frankenweenie. This is the full length feature based on
claymation or the stop motion.
Mm-hmm. Does another Killers video here with me in 2012. Mm-hmm. 2014 directs a movie called Big Eyes. I have not seen this film, and by all accounts, I don't really need to see this film from what I've heard about it. Stars Naomi Watts and Amy Adams. I'm sorry, Amy Adams and Christoph Waltz. Amy Adams plays a painter named Margaret Keane who became very successful in the 50s after painting these pictures of children with giant eyes. But due to some legal difficulty she's had with her husband, the husband claims all the credit for the work. So he claims he's the painter, even though she's the one making the portraits. That's about all I know about the film because I haven't seen it.
Well, that's more than I knew about it until
Yeah.
now.
2016, he does a film based on the novel Mrs. Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children. Very good novel. Another one in a series of like young adult novels in the vein of like Harry Potter and the Maze Runner and things like that. Not a great adaptation.
No. This is where he's traded in for his third interest, I think, in Eva Green. He went from Marie what was her name? Lisa Marie to Helena Bonham Carter to
Eva Green.
Eva Green. They all share the same quality. You can see it across the board.
Yeah. A sort of alluringly dark beauty.
Mm-hmm.
Then he does Dumbo in 2019. I have not seen this.
I did, and I was okay with it. I was good with it.
I enjoyed it. I did enjoy it.
I have to check it out at some point. I have not got a chance to see it. I've heard like mixed things about it.
Well, it's got his first Muse back in it, so.
And you got a lot of the reviews come from like everybody's so tied with the Disney original animated, right? And then it's like, well, I'm going to have to compare it to that. You can't.
You can't compare it.
You can't hold those standards because nothing that comes afterward will you find any kind of pleasure in.
Except for Lion King, because it was exactly the same damn movie.
Right. Exactly. I mean, you can if you kind of separate it a little bit, the Jungle Book was good, by comparison. Is it going to be as good as the original animated? It's not what you originally saw, but I like that one a lot. Same thing with Dumbo. I thought Dumbo, it took the story, it added things that weren't obviously in the animated one. It took things out, pink elephants, and
The Black Crows.
The Black Crows, yeah.
The Black Crows.
The Black Crows.
The
musicians were not involved in the song in the movie.
But I Mama, I'm so hard to handle now, And then he makes a surging comeback this year with the Netflix series Wednesday, in which he is the producer, one of the writers, and a director of 4 of the 8 episodes of the show. Phenomenal show. Phenomenal show. A fucking star in the making in Jenna Ortega as Wednesday. Some great casting all around. I wasn't too sold on Catherine Zeta-Jones as Morticia. I felt she was a little dry. I thought the kid that played Pugsley was awesome.
Yeah.
But overall, I really liked
she was also busy doing, some Disney stuff. Catherine Zeta-Jones, so she's all over streaming services right now.
I mean, she's not in it a lot. Like the family is not the focus of the show. It's mostly Wednesday,
right? And
she's at this private school, and it's really it's a murder mystery, like detective story, really, and really well done and funny. Some really funny moments in it. Some characters you really come to really like.
You mean like Piranhas as a whole?
Like her friend Enid and the boy that runs the bee club that she's a part of and all that stuff. Like it was a really, really good series, and I'm looking forward to.
And I really enjoyed that
2.
Christina Ricci was brought in
as
she was a different character. It was
as a completely different character, and she was great in it. I liked what's her name, Brienne of Tarth, as the school principal.
Yes, as the principal.
I can't remember the actress's name. Gwendolyn Christie. As the principal, yeah, it was. I really, really enjoyed Wednesday. It's something that I'm looking forward to season 2. I know they're filming it now, and then it's currently in production. Beetlejuice 2.
Back on the juice.
So Michael Keaton is coming back. There is a movie poster for it now.
There is.
I'm looking at it on IMDb. It's kind of cool. Follow up to the comedy Beetlejuice about a ghost who's recruited to help haunt a house. Top cat. Oh, look at this. Michael Keaton as Beetlejuice, and Jenna Ortega is listed on the cast. Those are the only 2 people listed right now. Nobody else has been given credit yet. I'm looking. See, music by Danny Elfman. There you go. He's back. So yeah, I'm interested. Like, I mean, I'm like, part of me is like, another one of these sequels that's 30 years in the making.
Mm-hmm.
But the other part of me is like, I love fucking Beetlejuice. I would love to see another Beetlejuice movie.
I'm looking at the writers to see if they've done anything good. One of them's been a producer on the movie It, but was a writer for Dark Shadows, Pride and Prejudice and Zombies, and Lego Batman movie. And I like Batman, and I even like Lego Batman movie because it was fucking funny as shit. But
David Kratzenberg did It, Child's Play, and Ballers.
He's no, David Katzenberg is mainly a producer and director. He only has a few writing credits.
Okay.
He's done a lot of he's directed a lot of things. Like, I've heard his name before. The other people, Seth Graham Smith. I feel like I heard his name before too. And like you said, yeah, he wrote Lego Batman.
Yeah.
And It,
the
reboot of It.
Okay. But they're bringing Michael McDowell, who was a writer on the original Beetlejuice and Nightmare Before Christmas, and Thinner, and Tales from the Dark Side. So this could be good.
Sometimes I worry when there's like a lot of writers, but I'm looking at it and it says that the early screenplay is Seth Graham Smith and David Katzenberg. Mike Vudanovich is the current screenplay, so they must have did like the spec script. And then Michael McDowell and Larry Wilson are credited as the creators of the original characters.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right, I'm looking forward to it. I'm curious.
Hey, look, I'm all about Michael Keaton coming back for reprising roles, on
that he made
certain
famous. Yeah, like
yeah.
I'm kind of looking forward to it.
I'm digging the Flash when you see
when you see him come back as Batman.
Coming back as Batman,
So let me give you a few little fun facts, fun trivia about Mr. Tim Burton. He was engaged to Lisa Marie from 1992 to 2001, his original muse, before ditching her for Helena Bonham Carter.
Mm-hmm.
Is a Bollywood fan. Everywhere he goes, he carries a pocket-sized sketchbook and watercolor kit with him.
Oh, how about that?
Usually dresses in black. No shit. Was voted the 49th greatest director of all time by Entertainment Weekly, the youngest director on their list. It was a list of 50, so he just made the list. Was hired in 1997 to direct Superman, a movie that never went through, thank God. I know we've seen the pictures of Nick Cage as Superman before, and it looked pretty horrible. He once said he never remembers his dreams apart from 5 recurring dreams. One of them involving the girl he was in love with when he was a teenager, and another involving his parents' bedroom. He would be a field day for Sigmund Freud. He made 8 films with Johnny Depp: Edward Scissorhands, Ed Wood, Sleepy Hollow, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, The Corpse Bride, Sweeney Todd, Alice in Wonderland, and Dark Shadows. Ranked 6th in the top 25 most intriguing people in the People magazine.
Tropicans.
Was working on a documentary about Vincent Price called Conversations with Vincent. After Price's death in 1993, he shelved the project and it has never been completed.
Well, I guess you're not seeing that anytime soon.
Yeah. Well, I might be. Well, that one was called Visiting with Vincent, so maybe it's like partially the documentary he was filming. Was supposed to direct The Fly in 1986 with Michael Keaton in the lead role, but he backed out of the project and it was later taken over by David Cronenberg, who brought in Jeff Goldblum.
That would have been an amazing horror movie to review. Much better than House of a Thousand Corpses. I'm just saying.
Yeah, I'm hearing you.
We haven't got to Saturday yet. Let's wait to Saturday to shit on the movie, guys.
The opening night of Batman the Musical was abandoned in 2005, even though he had been in conversations about it since 2002 to direct the Broadway musical version of Batman.
And instead they moved on to Spider-Man Music at Night, or whatever the hell it was, Slinging at Night.
It was Turn Off the Dark.
Turn Off the Dark, sorry. How did I screw that one up?
Spielberg considered bringing him in to direct Gremlins, but decided against it because at the time Burton had never directed a feature-length film. And then he would go on, of course, to direct Pee-wee's Big Adventure in 1985. His favorite films are Dracula A.D. 1972, the original Wicker Man in 1973, The Golden Voyage of Sinbad in 1973, The War of the Gargantuans in 1966, and The Omega Man in 1971.
I love this fun fact. He has a phobia of chimpanzees.
From the man who directed Planet of the Apes.
That was
Was originally set to direct Spawn in 1997. That would
I
have been
think
a
I
much
would have
better,
been.
much
Yeah,
better
I think I
movie.
would have
than-
liked that. I would have liked that a lot.
Was considered to direct X-Men in 2000. That's interesting.
Yeah. Don't know how that would have been.
Originally offered the script for Drop Dead Fred in 1991, but decided against it.
Oh, he was also attached to a series of unfortunate events in 2004,
That's right.
where he would have had Johnny Depp play Count Olaf.
He has a strong dislike of cats. I'm looking at like all these ones that he was considered to direct. It's funny. He was considered to direct Mary Shelley's Frankenstein in 1994. That's the Kenneth Branagh one. Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Men Tell No Tales. He was offered a chance to direct Stay Tuned in 1992, which is a movie starring John Ritter.
Ooh, it was a bad movie. I hated that one.
It was a movie I was actually considering for movies that time forgot, but then like I rewatched it recently and I was like, no, fuck that.
There's a reason why time forgot it.
He was considered to direct The Truman Show.
No, that might have been interesting.
He was going to direct Mary Riley, but chose to do Ed Wood instead. I think that was a good choice. He was going to direct The Addams Family, Cabin Boy, Dick Tracy. He was considered for Jurassic Park, How the Grinch Stole Christmas. God damn, it's like he was considered for every like weird, quirky movie that was ever like brought to a Hollywood producer. So, Mike, do you have any beer trivia for us this evening?
I have some beer history for you.
That sounds good.
Maize or corn has long been used for an ancient beer style called chicha, particularly in the Andes Mountains of South America. Its origins predate the Incan culture. Today, it is still consumed in large quantities at festivals and celebration. It is often made communally by chewing the grain and spitting it into a large pot where then it ferments.
That
was disgusting.
That sounded pretty nasty. Thank you. All right, so let's talk about our drinks then again. I'm done munching on my pumpkin. It was pretty good.
I'm on to my punch.
Yeah.
My
Jim Beam
strawberry punch.
Oh, that looks good too.
My Kirsch Noir was very good, and I have since moved on to a Tanner Brewing My Caramel Romance, which was 5.4%. I had this before on the show. It's very good.
I think I might be cracking open either another one of the pumpkins or maybe the Oktoberfest one from Devil's Backbone after this. Because I feel I'm getting thirsty again, and I need to quench this thirst. Thank you, everybody, for joining us tonight for episode 99, the Kooky Career of Tim Burton. We hope you enjoyed listening to this podcast as much as we enjoyed recording it for you. Don't forget, you can email us at filmsandfermentation@gmail.com or visit linktree.com/filmsandfermentation for all of our social media and podcast links. Don't forget, on Monday, March 27th.
Monday.
On Monday, March 27th, not only will you be getting this episode of Films and Fermentation, but you will also be able to go out and listen to the newest episode of the All Hallows Eve podcast featuring Jason and Kathy. We will be guests hosting that show with them as we review the seminal classic Oscar-winning auteur House of a Thousand Corpses by the man often compared most to Steven Spielberg, Rob Zombie.
Robert Zombie. Yeah, Zombie.
Yes.
Zombie.
It's French, isn't it? It's Robert Zombie.
Robert Zombie.
Or as I like to call it, one of the worst fucking movies I've ever seen in my life. I can't wait to shit all over this movie.
Wasn't that a scene in the movie?
I think there was a scene in the movie where somebody shit on themselves.
Mm-hmm.
I was
I
telling
must not got to that part yet. Spoilers, boys. Spoilers.
I was telling Mike. Mike's like, it's not that scary or anything. I was like, I know. It's actually toned down. Because the original version was NC-17, and there is a director's cut available where you can watch the NC-17 version, and even that has no interest in me.
No.
So, Jason and Kathy, we look forward to recording with you this weekend for that episode on Monday. We should have a lot of fun talking about this movie. Don't forget to stop by the crossroads between pickled and fermented the next time around, because we are going to be recording episode 100. For our special 100th episode, we are going to be doing a little bit of a look at the American Film Institute list of the top 100 films of all time. Doing a little run through that list and coming up with some films that we believe need to be added to the AFI list at this point. So for
like House of a Thousand Corpses,
like House of a Thousand Corpses, that should be number 2 on the list, right behind Citizen Kane. So in a couple weeks here, you'll be joining us for episode 100. Hopefully, we record a few more after that. That would be nice. I enjoy doing the show. I enjoy hosting it. I enjoy writing it. I enjoy hanging out with my 2 best friends and shitting on movies and drinking beer and just having a good time. This is just a good old fashioned good time.
It makes me look forward to Thursdays, and I hardly ever look forward to Thursdays.
It makes me look forward to Thursdays too, because it's usually my toughest day of the week, so I get to end it on a good note. So thanks again for joining us, folks. We look forward to seeing you for episode 100. I'm Leo.
I'm Kevin.
I'm Mike.
Run out there right now and watch House of a Thousand Corpses. Cheers, folks.
Cheers.
Cheers.
It's way gorier.
Yeah, and the gore doesn't bother me.
I wrote a fucking dissertation for the show on Saturday, like my thoughts on that movie. I've been writing stuff on Twitter about it. He's been writing stuff on Twitter, and he actually tagged us in a tweet earlier, and he tagged Rob Zombie in the tweet too.
Oh God!
And I'm like, I don't think Rob Zombie will turn into the show, but in case he does, he's going to hear me showing that movie a lot.
I would tell Rob Zombie to stick to music.
But I actually have backup for it, because one of my trivia facts is about how Rob Zombie himself hates that movie. It was his directorial debut, and he's like, when I watch it, all I see now are the flaws. There are a lot of them.
There was. And I still haven't finished it yet, so.
I wrote in my notes I thought the original Willy Wonka film with Gene Wilder was scarier.
Hi, Kev.
Hello, gents. How are we today?
Not the worst film I've seen, but definitely not the best.
It's getting close to the worst film I've seen.
I felt like it was 128 minutes, and it was like 126 of those minutes were unnecessary. The only necessity was the 2 minutes of Rob Zombie's wife walking out of the liquor store in chaps.
Is that who that is?
That's Rob Zombie's wife, yeah. That's Sherry Moon Zombie.
I think I want one of those posters that it's a scratch-off poster, but it's got like the AFI Top 100, and as you watch the movies, you kind of scratch off what you've seen, what you haven't seen.
I actually looked up the AFI 100 recently, because I was like kind of pre-planning for it, and they haven't updated the list since 2012.
Really?
It's been a really long time since they updated the AFI list. The last movie that they added to the list was Lord of the Rings: Return of the King.
Oh wow!
So
Black Panther's going to go on that list at some point.
Well, I don't know. Maybe. I'm thinking. So that's something we can do. Is like I'm going to check again and see like when the last time was updated. and then we can look at some of the movies that came out in the 10 years since the last update and see like which films we think should find a place on that list somewhere.
Yeah, Waterboy.
Yeah, I'm also thinking like we're not going to go through all 100 films. I think because I've seen a lot of them. I looked at the list and was like, wow, I really don't have much of a fucking life because I've watched so many movies. But I think like we could kind of do like we do with the year in history stuff, where we kind of like pick out some things and
maybe do the top 20 and then start scattering.
And then kind of scatter around through them. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So I am gonna go crack open another one.
I am gonna go take a shit.
I might do that first. I might have to go make some room.
That's right.
Yeah. All right, guys. It was good talking to you again. I'll see you on Saturday.